So for today, we're going to talk about bootstrapping, the entrepreneur struggle. So today we're going to go over these topics. What is bootstrapping, the pros, the cons, ways to bootstrap, and conclusion and open forum. Bootstrapping. This is like the condensed down definition of it. So starting a business without external help or capital. Bootstrapping is one of the most effective and inexpensive ways to ensure a business positive cash flow. Bootstrapping means less money has to be borrowed and interest costs are reduced. And as you can see over here, this is like an example of a company that started out bootstrapping, EDS. I forgot the name and the full name, but like for example, they started in 1962, and he started with just $1,000, and now that company is worth $13.9 billion. So with bootstrapping, like for example, myself, when I started out doing my sock business, kimchi socks, I started with just $100. Actually, it was less than that. I started out with $20 about 20,000 won I had in my pocket when I was at Hongdae, and I just bought a bunch of socks that was on sale. And then I also bought like a domain name on namecheap.com and put together like a real basic storefront just to see if people want to buy it. So that's another example of bootstrapping, where you just pretty much start with what you start off with what you got and be very creative. And we're gonna talk about the pros and cons of it. So the pros, little to no other investors to deal with, more freedom to experiment. Now, what do I mean by little to no other investors to deal with? Ideally, mostly when you bootstrap and if you're like a solo entrepreneur, you only have to answer to yourself. And normally, like if you are taking in a bunch of investors, you now have to like work with them. You can't just make all the decisions on your own, especially if you don't have majority ownership and equity in the company. Because like the more people you bring on board as investors, the less control you have of your company. The more you have to check with them, other people. But when you're bootstrapping, it's just mainly you, or you probably do have one or two other partners, but the more people, the more outside investments you take in on your company, the less control you have. So that's one of the pros with bootstrapping is you're not taking in external financing. It's all your own capital to start your business. And since it is all your own capital, you make all the choices. You do whatever you want. You have to answer to nobody. That leads to say more freedom to experiment. So if you like look because we talk about Elon Musk, all right. So let's just look at that. So Elon Musk. Yes, he does. It may seem he does kind of do what he wants. However, he still has to answer to a board of directors. He still has to answer to a bunch of investors. Like we've seen recently when he was tweeting about taking Tesla private, he got in trouble because the SEC fined him $40 million. Well, he got fined $20 million, and Tesla, the company, got fined $20 million, a total $40 million. Now, was he experimenting on Twitter? Probably so. And because of that experimenting that he did, it cost him $40 million. Now, if you're a private company, you bootstrapping, you own everything, you can tweet stuff like that. Well, not security related, but you don't have to answer to board of directors. There's nobody's gonna kick you off the board of your company. You don't have to deal with that because you can experiment. It's all your capital in the business. So. Another bootstrap example is the company Spank. It was founded in 2000, and she started with $5,000. Her company's now worth $1.0 billion. Now, interesting with her, what helped her become that successful was Oprah. She's like Oprah, she got involved in the Oprah, she went on Oprah's show. Oprah gave it the stamp of Oprah approval, and then her company blew up. And that lady, she still owns pretty much majority of her company, even though it's still valued at $1.0 billion. So that's another example of bootstrapping. So the cons. So you have to micromanage. What I mean by that is, yes, you're bootstrapping, and with bootstrapping, 9 times out of 10, you don't have a lot of capital. So the capital you do have, you have to make sure it's being effectively deployed as efficient as possible. So with that, you might result in micromanaging. So you might bring on people, but because you got a little bit of capital, you don't want to risk that capital being wasted. You're going to micromanage the people who you bring on your team. Now, micromanaging, I'm not a fan of micromanaging. I am anti-micromanage, but some people like micromanaging. But even though I don't like it either, I still do it. But because, like I said, you have very limited capital in the beginning when you're bootstrapping, you have to be careful with that. So it results in you micromanaging. So you need cash flow. So look at companies that gets VC and angel investors. They don't really have to focus too much on cash flow in the beginning because they, for example, they didn't got like a whole investment round of like $2 million to help bankroll them while they work towards being cash flow positive. So they can take risks. They don't have to worry about making money right up front because they have investor capital to help them keep the lights on. When you're bootstrapping, you don't have any VC investors. You don't have angel investors. You have yourself. So it becomes very important to get your company cash flow positive as fast as possible so you can stay afloat because you don't have that external capital coming in. Another con is it takes longer to achieve milestones. So going back to the companies who get VC funds, who get all this big influx of capital, they can achieve milestones a lot faster because they have the monetary capital to invest in pretty much labor, manpower. They can hire a bunch of developers. They can hire a bunch of staff to help them achieve milestones a lot quicker. When you're bootstrapping, your milestone achievement gets slowed because, like I said, you don't unless you coming from a rich family that's here's your inheritance, go forward, build a company. It's gonna take a lot longer to achieve your milestones because every dollar that comes into the company has to get reinvested back into the company for different things along your timeline to achieve. So it takes a little bit longer, but you can get there. It just takes a lot more time, patience, and consistency compared to your VC funded startups. So another example of a bootstrap is Tough Mudder. So you know Tough Mudder, that's the guys who put on those massive like obstacle events. So they started out in 2010 with just $8,300. They now bring in an average revenue each year $100 million plus from bootstrapping. So as you see the examples I put up there, you can start when you bootstrap. You start off with a little bit of money, but if you do things right, you stay consistent, and you gotta make mistakes, learn from mistakes, and then keep moving forward. You could grow your bootstrap company into a multi-million-dollar or multi-billion-dollar industry or company, not industry. Ways to bootstrap: low startup capital. What I mean is, figure out a business that you want to do, you're passionate about or whatever, that doesn't need a lot of startup capital. So it doesn't require a lot of money up front. For example, an online business doesn't require a lot of capital, especially if you get into doing like Amazon. So for example, Amazon's a good example of a low startup capital business. So say like if you stay here in Korea and you know in the States, people are buying those hot ramen packs for like $15 for a pack of 5. If you were able to set up yourself an Amazon FBA account and Amazon seller account, and then buy the product from here in Korea, ship it to the States so Amazon warehouse can hold it, and then you sell it on the Amazon marketplace, you didn't create yourself a low startup capital business. This is one example. Another way to bootstrap generates fast cash. So you're gonna look for businesses that people are already willing to pay money for it because they need that product, they want that product. So once you start selling it, your cash flow positive is going to happen a lot faster because you're selling something that's in high demand. Starting a side business, like myself, I work full time in the United States Air Force, but I run my business on the side. So starting a business while you have a full-time job is another way to bootstrap your company. Because going back earlier, what I said, like you have the VC startups who has VC money pipeline in its own. Think of your full-time job is your VC, it's your pipeline, while you work on building your business on the side while it's bootstrapping. Try bartering. So what that means is, so for me, for example, there's one website, I'm not gonna say the name. When I started out with Kimchi Socks, I wanted to get some exposure in this massive blockchain conference. I contacted the organizers and I made a deal with them. Say, hey, look, I will give you guys 200 pairs of my Bitcoin stocks for free in exchange for you giving me exposure in at your conference. So the deal worked out where instead of me getting exposure at the main floor, the 200 pairs went to their VIP. So the deal we made was, okay, my 200 pairs of socks will go into the goodie bags of all the guests, all the speakers at the conference. And these are like thought leaders in the space. And for me, because the cost of that actually it was charging $20,000 for companies to do that. But because I bartered, I negotiated the deal, I was able to get around having to pay that because one pair of my socks cost $10.99, so I gave them 200 pairs. So that was the kind of bartering right there. Keep your costs low, and that goes into our next one too. Don't hire but outsource. So those two bullets is a great way to bootstrap your business. I know I even had conversations with some entrepreneurs where even here when they starting out, they want to hire a whole bunch of people and pay them like $2,000 to $3,000 a month. But if you're bootstrapping, your goal is to try to keep your costs low in the beginning. So outsourcing. Upwork.com is an example. Fiverr is an example where you can outsource things you need done and pay someone probably like between $3 to $5 an hour to do some work that you need done, but you don't have time to do it yourself. So that's another way. And then other one, use your family. If you got any like kids or you got like this and that, like use your family to work in your business. Me growing up as a kid, my dad, he owned a pest control company, and he would take us with him on some jobs to do some work, not dealing with the chemicals, but to be like his assistant. So that helped him with his business. So use your family. Plus, if you do got kids, they're gonna benefit from the business anyways. Make their behinds work. Another way to bootstrap is work from home. And you can, if you have an online business or if you have a physical product business, set up a spot in your house to work from home. Now, I don't know here in Korea, but I know in the States, there's like tax benefits from working from home. You can write off some of your house expenses, your electricity expenses, because you work from home. But for those type of things, you want to talk to like a tax advisor. They can help you out. So another way, lease equipment. Now, if you buy equipment, depending on the equipment you're trying to buy, it might cost like a lot of money up front, but it might be cheaper for you starting out to just lease it. So that's, not go too much into that, but yeah. And then also with leasing equipment, I know once again, there's sometimes tax pros and cons with that. So that's another one where you want to try to consult a tax advisor to tell you the pros and cons to leasing versus buying bigger equipment. In conclusion, bootstrapping is a slow and steady process. It's not no fast. It's a slow and steady process in building your business. And like I said, I started Kimchi Socks back in, the idea came to me back in 2013. The end of 2013, the idea came to me, 2014, one of those. And I started with 25 bucks in my pocket, and I just wanted to see if I can even sell one pair of socks. That's how I started it out. And once I was able to sell a pair of socks, then I went ahead and built like another website to see if I could sell 10 pairs of socks. And then slowly with that, taking the money that I was bringing in and reinvesting it into the business. And now fast forward to 2018, I sell a decent amount of socks versus when I started out. But like I said, that took a process build up to that. Also, when you're bootstrapping, you maintain more controls of the business. Like you have more control, you have more creative freedom, you can do a lot whatever you want without having answers to anybody else. And your bootstrap can become a huge company. So like some examples like Spank, Tough Mudder, the other one EDS, your company can become big. It just takes time, like I said earlier. So you gotta be patient and just keep on grinding, keep on hustling, and then you will slowly build up your bootstrap into a multi-million-dollar company down the road. No, it's not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take time to do that. Like for example, Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton started out just making chests, like those big like folding chests. They just started out making that, and then They got some deals. They did some work for the Nazis, and then they slowly became what you see today, Louis Vuitton. Ford Motors. He started out with just one vehicle, and then now you have a bunch of vehicles. Fubu, the clothing line that I grew up as a kid, and it's popular here in Korea. He started out with just making T-shirts and hats in his own house by hand, and now it's a multi-million-dollar clothing line. So it takes time when you bootstrap. It takes hustle when you bootstrap. It takes a lot of grit because you're doing it all on your own merit. A lot of time, your own money goes into it. You make money, you put the money back into the business when you're bootstrapping. And the average bootstrap startup with $10,000. That's the average. Some people have more money, but that's the average amount of money that people use for starting up. Like I said, I started Kimchi Socks, just $25, and I slowly kept putting more money into it as I grew. Questions, open forum. Like I like to keep my slides short and sweet to the point, but so yeah, that's bootstrapping.